Child, I read 24 books this month. How I did that? No idea. But here we are. What up, Search fam? Sade here. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new, my name is Sade. I'm out here curating, co-creating a cool ass life, and it's time to talk about the books that I read in November. Now, if this is your first time coming across my little corner of the internet, or you keep coming back, consider joining my internet family. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and be made aware of every time I make a new video, which is usually on the weekend. Now, per usual, I have my stack of physical books, my trophies, as well as my handy dandy iPad that has my StoryGraph information for the digital and audiobooks that I read over the course of the month. So, as I said, I don't know how we read 24 books, but apparently I was taking them down like nobody's business. So, to start, I have been looking forward to talking to y'all about The Conjuring of America by Lindsey Stewart, because I read it in October. I started in October for Hoodoo Heritage Month, then I finished it at the very beginning of the month. This is the thing about reading so many books, is that the month seems long when you look over the list of things that you've read. So when you go back to the beginning of the month, you're like, ooh, that seems so long ago. Anyway, so The Conjuring of America, Mojos, Mermaids, Medicine, and 400 Years of Black Women's Magic is a book that I was excited for the release of, because I think that the conversation around Black women and Black women's sort of central and empowered role in conjure and hoodoo in the United States is very important. So that's what Lindsey Stewart was talking about. And she sets most of the book up around the idea of some of the tropes that Black women have fallen into, as well as the Orisha Oshun, which is West African deity that is over the rivers and the fresh water, as well as like femininity, beauty, etc. and whatnot. So the parts of the book are organized under Negro mammies, so those in the period of enslavement, Voodoo Queen's Mermaid, which is talking about sort of turn of the century, hoodoo and voodoo out of New Orleans, then Aunt Jemima, which will be early 20th century carryover from enslavement. And so we're talking a bit about blackface stereotypical characters, the historical creation of that, as well as what it represents as far as real lived people, right? And then we have Quilts and Granny Midwives talking about textile production, midwifery, and then ending with the Candy Lady, which is a late 20th into 21st century staple in the hood. Like, I remember going to the Candy Lady frequently in the various neighborhoods that I was hanging around, and how she is sort of a central figure that Stewart argues follows in this sort of lineage and trajectory of Black women serving the Black community with hoodoo, with conjure, with magic, with medicine, etc. And I thought it was a fantastic book. I have some things tabbed in it, and I read it as my devotional practice book, so it took me a little bit longer to read it, as well as it's something that I'm considering teaching in the next semester in one of my courses. So if you are into historical anthropological study, as well as things around hoodoo and conjure, I would say that this is required reading. I think you should absolutely put it on your book list. If you're not into those things, you ain't gonna like it. So I also finally got All I Wanted Was to Read Books and I Became a Space Pirate Instead by Petra Palerno. And this was so cute and fun. It is the fourth book in the Bubble Babe series. I own all four of the Bubble Babes books, and I have signed copies. Let's see if it'll focus. Yeah, I have signed copies of all of the books because I met Petra Palermo, and she's a very sweet person. This is the latest book that came out, and it is about Kamari, who is one of the women who gets abducted by the deans and becomes a bubble babe, and she gets emancipated, and she's a lover girl. She used to own a bookshop, a romance bookshop, and she decides that I can't stand watching my friends and all these other human women find their mates, and I am just here kind of existing, same as I was when I was living on Earth, and I'm gonna go. And so she finds herself on a pirate ship, a marauder ship, whose captain is Faroon, who's very grumpy. And so she talks herself into being allowed to stay, and they are trying to infiltrate the deans, trying to find where they're going and dropping off other abducted humans. And it's shenanigans. They fall in love. Now, I will say, and I wonder if this is true for other, especially like people of color who are written by people of color authors, like authors outside of their racial or ethnic designation. I could tell that Kamari, who is Black, was not written by a Black person, but it didn't bother me too much. I enjoyed the book a lot. I like Petra Palermo's writing. She's very funny. So this is yes, definitely pick it up. It's a good time. I also read Every Version of You by Sloane Spencer, and I told y'all that this was one of the books that I wanted to read before the end of the year, and it is adorable. It's best friends to lovers, accidental pregnancy, and life changes, things like that. The female main characters, Angie, is plus size. She's very cool, very sweet, kind of down on her luck and having hard times. And her best friend, Raphael, who is a retired rugby player, moves back to like Philadelphia or something like that. And, you know, they spend a lot of time together there. So they're spending time together. But at Raphael's housewarming party, they get blackout drunk and don't realize they've slept together. And then she gets pregnant and they decide, okay, we're going to co-parent. And then she ends up moving in with him. And everything, you know, comes out in the wash. I thought it was very sweet. Now, this is the one where Raphael does all the book boyfriend things. Do with that what you will. It was a very sweet time. I enjoyed reading that one. I'm probably going to read whatever the next in this series of books is. Now, in terms of audiobooks, I did some audiobooks I did a lot of audiobooks. Most of the books that I read this month were audiobooks and some digital. So we'll get through these. Now, I did Mules and Men by Zora Neale Hurston, which I said I was going to do for Hoodoo Heritage Month in October. And it is a set of folk tales, but set up in the vein of Hurston going back home to Eatonville, and she's talking about her experience being back home and interviewing people, and they're telling her their stories. I found this to be one, really cool and informative, but also really endearing because I am from near where Hurston lived in Eatonville. The way that the older people talked reminded me of the elders that I grew up with, very Southern, and some of the stories, well, many of them I had not heard, but like parts of them rang really familiar for me. So I found the book to be really cool and valuable in that sense, but also it does get at some of the things and beliefs in Hoodoo and Conjure. So there's another book by Hurston I'm going to probably read maybe by the end of the year called Every Tongue Gotta Confess, and it's more folk tales in her anthropological work. So I'm super excited to get into that. This is a reread for me. I read Say You Will by Evangeline Williams, and I think it is probably on my long list of favorite book boyfriends. You have Frankie and Henry, who are childhood friends that sort of lose touch. Henry is deeply autistic, and I love that. Frankie is chronically ill. I think she has like a shorter leg, so she's disabled in particular ways. Her mom is horrible because she's like the child of famous people, and she's trying to live her life for herself. She's a PhD student, and also her parents are deeply manipulative that try to sort of capitalize off of her insecurities as well as her disability to keep her under thumb and use her. Frankie is trying to make her moves on her own, trying not to like depend on her family and things like that. Oh, her parents are awful. And Henry loves her. Henry loves her so bad. And he is like a vigilante billionaire, whatever. And they end up reconnecting at a wedding. And he's like, this time I'm gonna make her mine. But he fumbles so badly because he initially tries to get her to fake marry him because he needs to get married to get the shares of his family business that his grandma is holding over his head, and says like, you gotta get married. And so then he convinces her to work for him because she needs a place to stay and she needs insurance and all of these things. So he's like, you come work for me. And it's adorable, but also there are some like potentially triggering things. So I would check the trigger warnings on that. But Evangeline Williams, I'm going to read other books in that series, and I think one book just came out per Jackie. And so yeah, I really enjoyed that. A Pack for Autumn is in a collaboratively written seasonal collection between Emilia Emerson and Eliana Lee. We know I love Eliana Lee. And so I read the autumn book because it was the fall time and we need cozy. And so the FMC in this one is her parents die, and she used to be like a boating person, and she ends up in this small town and becomes the keeper of the lighthouse. And the pack of alphas are contractors, and one of them like immediately knows that she is their omega, and the two of them are like, okay, we're on board. One is deeply wounded and things like that. He take a while to come around. It was very sweet. I enjoyed it, but then again, we know I love an omega verse, and this was also very low drama. So if you want, I think this would be a good one to foray into Omegaverse because it is, a little bit more gentle and there is no serious trauma or anything like that, which sometimes can be the case. I did Fractured Souls by Neva Altaj, which is the 6th book in that series. It's like a light mafia romance. It is dark. There is violence. And in this one, it's Pavel and I forget the female main character's name, but this one I would say you definitely want to read the trigger warnings because she is one young as hell. The age gap is like she's 19 or 20 and he's like 33, 34 and has been working in the mafia, and she is trafficked. And she's kept for like 2 years after being trafficked. And like she accidentally, one of the Johns that she's been forced to work and runs away. But she's also been drugged. And Pavel finds her and then he keeps her, and like it's a whole bunch of stuff. I thought it was fine. I did it as an audiobook. But I also like Neva Altaj. This is lighter mafia, but still this one was dark and it had some heavy themes in it. So we did Filthy Rich Vampire by Geneva Lee, and this book made me go, I need more standalones. I'm tired of series because I'm like, I feel like this book could have been a really cool just like standalone, but it's a 3-book series and I'm not going to continue the series, I don't think. But it is about this cellist who ends up working this event that is actually like vampires, and she catches the eye of this vampire prince essentially, and it is age gap, and he ends up paying her to be his girlfriend because the like games or something are starting where he has to sort of present to be matched for his family, and his mom is awful, and it's a lot. I think the sort of miscommunication tropes and things of it all really irritated me as well. I did the audiobook and I just was just like, okay, girl. But, you know, it was fine. I guess I wouldn't, like I said, I'm not planning on finishing the series. The Poisoner by Ophelia, however, another vampire-esque book, was fantastic. And it was very dark. It's about this woman who poisons like men who are abusing their wives and things like that, and catches the eye of what is called this creature. It's a vampiric type creature, and their dark banter, the fact that they both like to kill people, and she so there's this very much like cat and mouse thing going on. The banter is really good. It's spicy, but the way that he talks to her, my kind of carrying on, okay? And so I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the darkness of it. It was just a really well-told story. This, too, is actually a series. I don't know how many books, but I am looking forward to the second book in this because I was just enraptured with this novel, even though it did read a little bit slower, but I was deeply engaged in it. I did a reread of All the Black Girls Are Activists by EbonyJanice. I did it as an audiobook and read it on my walks. And this time, I think I took it in with sort of like a different appreciation because it is like sort of fourth wave womanism, and through these sort of personal essays that analyze what it means to be a woman, a Black woman in your like 30s and 40s, and how, and within the trajectory of the womanist paradigm. And I really enjoyed it, this read, because I feel like I was kind of meh about it the first time I read it, and then my physical copy I lent to one of my students and she never gave it back to me, which is fine. That happens sometimes. But I am going to repurchase this because I was able to sit with it in a different way, and I actually really enjoyed it, as well as like thinking about it through EbonyJanice would be sort of contemporary to me. I too would sort of fit within the fourth wave trajectory of womanism, and so sitting with that as like seeing it as a fellow intellectual who is thinking through ideas of what it means to be womanist now, and also like living as a Black woman in the United States and all the things, I just found it incredibly compelling. And so, yeah, that's a definite read for me. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit more at length in another video. I did A Little Shock of Hate, which is a novella in the Barista series. It's like book 3, and this is like a Medusa and a male partner, and you're starting to get a sense of the barista and what he is, and how, like, who he done pissed off and all the things. And it was fine. I read it because I was in a Gregory Salinas kick, because I had just read Fractured Souls, and I was like really feeling Gregory Salinas as a narrator. So I read another book, and this one was really short. I think, you know, the Barista series is cool, and it's a good palate cleanser if you like monsters and things like that. This is a Killian, though, so it is male on male, so there's some Zora crossing and other things, so be mindful if that's not your jam. I did quite a few shorter novellas and things like that. I did Thunder Thighs by Evie Mitchell, which was cool. It was a small town romance. Boat person comes into this small town, falls in love with this chick who owns a restaurant bar with her best friend, and she, you know, is in a dry spell. She's like, oh, I just want to find somebody, and they fall in love, and it's very short and it's very cute, very light, very I would say fluffy, like not too much drama. So that one was fine. And then I did Guarding Temptation, which was like the most recent novella by Talia Hibbert. And these are brothers' best friend, who's also best friend with the FMC. And she is sort of a whistleblower on a blog, and she gets doxxed and starts getting sort of like harassed and things like that. So she has to move with him, and they are working through the fact that they both are attracted to each other, but they didn't want to ruin the friendship, didn't want to, mess up the fact that like they're connected, especially through the FMC's brother. And so it's really sweet. And they just have this like overwhelming chemistry and attraction. And so, very quickly works through that. I enjoyed it, but we know that I really like Talia Hibbert's books. I did my first Agatha Christie book, and I should also do another video about this. I read And Then There Were None. Oh, it was fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. I ate it up. And it's a murder mystery about these 10 people that get invitations to go to this house for a dinner party, but it's like offshore on this little island or whatever, and it's framed in this like nursery rhyme type situation, and all the people get killed, but the plot twist of who actually killed them and how that gets worked out, ooh, that was fantastic. I'm gonna be reading some more Agatha Christie because that really scratched the itch for me, and now I'm like, yes, please, more murder mysteries. So I had a really good time with that. I also did The First Family, which is the second book in the Drew Collins series by Granger. Child, it was good. It was good. Maggie is learning more about her family ties to the first family at Drew Collins. We're still trying to figure out who killed Hillary from the first book. And Asha is sort of trying to make sense of being a siren that can't swim and like all these things. Oh, I can't wait for the third book. I might have to actually read it because the audiobook, I can't find it anywhere. I think it's on Audible, but I haven't seen it on like Libby or Hoopla or Libro FM or any other places that I get my books from. But yes, I've been really enjoying the Drew Collins books. I'm probably going to own physical copies of it because Granger it was awesome. I did Eros by Eros, Gods of the Realm. And I forget who it's by. I'll put it down here somewhere. And it was okay. It's a retelling of Cupid falling in love with a human who's she's a restorationist, and she's trying to restore, or keep the Temple of Eros from being torn down. And she gets getting in the way of contractors and things like that. So Eros goes down to earth because he's like, oh, why are people trying to tear down my thing? I need to go check on things. And so he, poses as this very rich person and gets her a contract to restore it. And then you got the corporation that's trying to buy, and it's like all these things. It was okay. It was okay. It was just okay. But also, this was written by a Black author. I think it was fine. It wasn't very compelling for me, but I could see that if you are into a reimagining in that way, especially like a Black romance, it was cool. And it wasn't very long. I did Love and Other Killers by Brynne Weaver, which is like a novella spinoff of the Ruinous Love series, where all three of our couples are doing their August Hunt games together. It was fine. It was funny. It was funny. I enjoyed it, and I did it as an audiobook. So if you haven't read the Ruinous Love series, it is about serial killers. So I would definitely check the trigger warnings, and I don't think you should read it unless you have read the rest of the series. So there is that as a caveat. I did as an audiobook, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I get it, because this has been on my list for a while, and it was absolutely beautiful. It had a little bit of magical realism in it. It's about Alexa, who is a surgeon and works in emergency. She's disappointing to her family. Her brother gets married and shunts off, so he can't take over the sort of front-facing, public-facing part of their family business, coming director of surgery, whatever. And so she has to do it. Her parents, especially her dad, is very elitist, very classist. She ends up in this small town because her car runs off the road, and this guy Daniel digs her out, and she ends up there. They have a one-night stand. He falls for her. He's like 10 years younger than she is. And Daniel is baby. I went and immediately purchased a physical copy of the book. So I should have put that in my physical trophies. I'm going to read it again and probably annotate it. This might end up on my top 10 for the year because I am continually thinking about it. And I told Spoken, my one of my book friends, about it, and she read it and she was just like, oh, I know. I was swooning. And Her Psycho Beast, third book in the 6-book series. Ciao. Again, there are just some people that need to be punched in the nuts. And Xander Dracos is that person. So, third book in the series, we're trying to figure out how to get one, our girl's mama back, because she alive. And second, the school done been taken over by the Phoenix, Celeste's brother, cousin, something. And he's awful. He's horrible. We hate him, okay? And there's just a lot of things going on. Scythe is being wild and falling for Leah, but also land psychosis and all the things. Listen, I'm stressed. The 4th audiobook come out this month. And I can't wait. And then there's one more book, which also comes out at the end of the month. So I'm going to be reading that in January. And then probably sometime in 2026, I'm going to reread the whole series because I'm going to own all the audiobooks and the physical books. I love this series so much, bro. I also read Sex Beyond Yes, Pleasure and Agency for Everyone by Quill R. Kukla. And it was a short audiobook. And I thought it was interesting because it was talking about how to understand pleasure and positive sex interactions outside of the traditional notions of consent. That consent actually looks quite different, and we have to be really mindful about various characteristics and parts of people's lives that make the idea of consent as just like this sort of yes or no thing more complicated. And I thought it was really good. There were parts of it where I was like, I didn't need to read all that. I think if you are not one who thinks in terms of sex, pleasure, and consent in these ways, this is a really good book to help you understand that and to help you think more expansively about how you engage in sex and pleasure experiences. I think it was good, and it was short, so I enjoyed that. I did The Right Side of Paradise by Sean, which was lovely. It's a summer book, but I enjoyed it so much. So this is about our main character who goes back home for the summer, and she ends up staying with her former stepbrother and his two best friends. They're all best friends, very close, but they also like actually have feelings for each other. And it's kind of wild, I'm not gonna lie, because they're the ones who take her virginity, and that keeps them fucked up, right? And so it's, sort of forbidden romance. It is polyamorous. It is spicy. We know I love Sean, so I'm gonna say pick it up. But, if those things are not for your taste buds, your palate, don't do it, friend. But if you want why choose, and it kind of cozy. There's some family drama, but otherwise kind of low drama. This was a good one. On Vibes, I picked up Rook to King by Karina Taylor as an audiobook. It was so good. It's heist. They're looking for this the pieces to this chess set. And you have a sort of arts, not curator, but like she's an assessor. But she's also looking for this art piece. And so she's been working at this antiquity shop. And then this guy who is known for being like an arts thief, smuggler, whatever, comes in. Come find out he actually owned the building. And then people start looking for them because they too are trying to look for this chess set that if you get all the pieces, it's supposed to lead you to some fortune Italian Fortune. It was so cute, and there's romance, but it was not spicy. Like, it had no actual like spicy scenes, and I did not mind because the story was strong and the characters were strong, and it was just funny and quirky. I enjoyed it. I would probably actually really read that again. I enjoyed Karina Taylor, so I might read something else of hers, but this was good and continued to scratch my sort of mystery and heist itch that I've been on all year. Finally, I did this Saint View Sinners versus Slayers trilogy as an audiobook. This is Kara's book by L. Thorpe, and child, I was stressed, which is why I binged all 3 books in like 2 days. I don't know, y'all. I don't know, but it was great. This has like to do with a cult religious trauma. This one is very dark, lots of trauma, violent. I would say if you have more delicate sensibilities, do not read this book. Do not read L. Thorpe. Also, this is the 3rd trilogy in the universe, and they sort of, characters from the other ones come back into this one. So this is about Kara, who lives in a religious cult. She runs away. She gets abducted and trafficked and becomes pregnant in the second set of books, which is her older sister's books. And she goes back to the religious community that she ran away from with the baby, and she ends up the first wife to the leader. And he's mad. He's got like 6 or 7 wives. He's a pedophile, and he's also trafficking the young girls and like a whole bunch of stuff. And so she ends up back running away again with one of her younger sisters, and her younger sister ends up dead, and she's back at the motorcycle club that she was taken to after she got rescued the first time. But now she's got her 5-year-old who was taken away from her in the community because she ended up getting married to the religious leader. It's a mess, child. It's a mess. It's a lot. And there were at points where like I got irritated with Kara as a character, right? Because she, like, and I get it, religious trauma and all the things, but there were just some points where she was just like very sort of like whiny in ways that just don't suit me personally. And I know you have to put these people within the context of like the world that they're existing in, but who girl, some things about it, I was just like, but overall, I very much enjoyed the series, and I am going to read the next one, which is going to be even more unhinged, and I'm excited about it. All right. I think that's it, y'all. We made it. This was a long one. What y'all read in November? Did y'all read anything cozy? We still got like a couple more weeks before December turns into actual winter. So let me know what y'all are reading down in the downstairs area or my comment section. And as always, friends, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend about the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.